Hi guys, and welcome to another Bootstrap 4 video. This is Jamie from System22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Well, in this video we're going to explore some CSS shadow effects. We've got some great effects here that I'll show you how to implement with your Bootstrap 4 site. We've got a sort of elegant long shadow there, a deep shadow, an inset shadow, I hope you can see that okay, and a sort of retro shadow here. And I have to thank another guy for this who's put this CSS code up here. We go over here to CodePen. Gentleman by the name of George Epinan. I don't know if I said that right. I apologize if I didn't. He's the one that actually created this CSS code for us that we're going to use today. I'll drop this link below the video so you can get the code from there. Alright, so first thing we want to do is create a Bootstrap page. I'm using Brackets here. It's a free software. You can download it from a link below the video also. I'm going to use an extension. If you go to your extension manager, you can load this free extension by just searching for it. It's called New Bootstrap Template. Simply hit it and it brings us, it automatically gives us a basic Bootstrap template page. And just for those of you that want to know, skip ahead if you already know this. If you go to your extension manager, once it loads, just put in Bootstrap or Bootstrap in the search box here, and it'll give you a list of all the extensions you can load. And there's the one I've just used, the Bootstrap starter template, and these are absolutely free. And just hit on the install button. It'll install it for you, or it'll give you a zip file which you can just drag here to install it. Alright, so we've pulled up a basic Bootstrap page here. So first thing we need to do is save it. So I'm going to go up to File, Save As. I'm going to call it index.html because it's an HTML file, and save it. And just to show you what that's going to look like, if I browse to that, there it is right there, index.html. Double click on it, it opens it up in our browser, and this is what we got. We just got a basic Bootstrap starter template with a nav bar and a little bit of text there. And this is what I just made this from here. Okay, so how do we go about turning this into this? Pretty easy actually. Let's go back to our brackets. And the first thing I want to do is I want to turn the text that we've got there, I want to make it a bit bigger. If you wanted to, you could actually copy their text CSS here, which is what they've got here. But I don't particularly want to do that. And also, while we're looking at this, it's actually compiled as less. We're going to actually do it as pure CSS, which means we're not going to use those ampersands and stuff on the beginning, but I'll show you that in a moment. If you go to this page and it doesn't look like this, just go up to Change View up here, make sure you're on Editor View. And once you're on Editor View, it should be here with the HTML, CSS and JS boxes. Okay, so I want to make my H1 text sort of large. I'm not going to use their font family, like I say. If you want to do that, that's fine. I'm just going to use the default Bootstrap. So that's an H1 title, and I just want to make it a lot bigger, and I want it to be capitalized, a little bit like they've got here. So we look up here, we're using on-page CSS here. Quite often you'll have a separate CSS file, but on-page is fine here. And there's that H1 text Bootstrap starter template. That's what we want to make larger. So let's just create a class. I'm going to drop down one. and I'll call it caps dot C-A-P-S because I'm going to capitalize it. Keep it simple and fairly descriptive. Open and close some curly brackets. And we want to tell it to be a lot bigger, so let's say font size. Let's try something like 80 pixels. We can always change it afterwards if you want it bigger or smaller. And we also want that text to be capitalized. So it'll be text transform colon uppercase. We've been prompted for it right there. And semicolon on the end of there. We may want to add a bit more after that. Okay, now we've created that saying font size 80 pix and text transform uppercase. We've got to tell our H1 down here that that's what we want it to do. So to do that, we want to give it that class equals, and the name that we just gave it, which was caps, T-A-P-S, without the dot. You don't need the dot there when you're writing the HTML. That's just putting that class in. Let's save that, Control S to save, and go back to our site, which was here, and do a refresh, and that text should get an awful lot bigger. There we go, that's a bit more like it. Pretty boring standard text, but for this demonstration that'll work absolutely fine. Okay, so let's look at this. Let's do this nice long elegant shadow that we've got here. And to do that, here's the CSS for that. And like I was saying earlier, they got it compiled as less, so we don't need that ampersand. So I'm taking it from just before the dot there of elegant shadow and all the way to that bottom closing curly bracket right there. Control C to copy. We'll go back to our brackets, go up to our CSS at the top here, just drop down one more, and paste it in. I'm just going to bring those across to line them up, keep it tidy. There we go. Okay, so we got elegant shadow CSS. You can leave that name alone if you want. I'm just going to shorten it for convenience to EGS, elegant shadow. Now I'm going to go down and I'm going to add that class to our H1 also. So I'm just going to add EGS, which was the name of the class. EGS. No dot. And it's fine to have multiple classes there. So let's say that, Control S, and see what we've got. Go back to the site and refresh. There we have it. It's added that shadow to our text there. It's also added that background color, which looks great and everything, but if you don't want that there, I'll show you in a minute how to change section background color so you can have the whole thing that color. But let's take that away so it's white. So let's go back to our brackets, back up to our EGS or elegant shadow there, and if you notice on the second line there, it's got a background color, and we can either select that and delete it, just hit delete, or if I hit Control Z to put it back there, we can comment it out. And the usual thing for commenting out CSS is /*, and then when you want it to come back in, */, the opposite right there. So that will no longer be read by the browser. If we save that, Control S, go back to our site again. Now let's refresh. There we go, and we've got that with no background color there, which is fine. Now our shadows are kind of coming over this next line there, so let's just add a bit of margin to the bottom of this to push this text down a little bit. So let's go back to our brackets, and where we added that caps class, let's just add a margin And we want a margin just on the bottom, so it's margin bottom, colon, and let's say 50 pixels. We can always change this if that doesn't work. Control S to save, back to the site. And let's do a quick refresh. There we go, that's pushed that down just out of the way of that shadow a little bit. So that's that first one. There's a nice little text shadow effect there. Thank you to Georgie there, or Georgie, or however you say that. Saved us a lot of CSS writing there. So let's move on down and try this deep shadow one. Let's go back to our Bootstrap template here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new section, because this time we're actually going to have a colored background. We want it full width, so we'll create a section and we'll give it an ID. Give it an ID of grey, because it's going to be a sort of grey background. Now IDs are kind of like classes, but IDs want to be unique, whereas classes you can have multiple of the same class on a page. IDs, not so much. They want to be unique. Okay, so I've created a section. Inside that section, I want to create a div with a container which will contain our text there. And we'll give it a class of container. Close that one out. And what we're going to do is simply copy this, because as you'll see, we'll just keep using this for expediency, and drop that in there. And let's just tidy that up so it's lined up nicely. There we go. Okay, so we've got a new section. Grey. It's not going to do anything because I haven't told it to do anything there. And we've got our regular thing there, and it's going to look exactly the same as our last one. I'm going to get rid of the EGS, which is the elegant shadow, so it'll just be capitalized. Let's just save that and see what we've got. As you can see, we've got a clone site underneath, but we haven't got the, or clone section underneath, but we haven't got the shadow because I've taken away that class there. So let's go back and take a look. Here's our deep shadow. And again, we want to take it just to the left of the dot. We do not want the ampersand there, the and take it to the closing bracket there. Control C to copy. Back to our brackets, up to our CSS. Drop down one after that last curly bracket we put in there. Control V to paste. And let's just push this across, tidy it up a bit. So I'm selecting it and just hitting the tab key. There we go. And again, you can leave that name as it is if you want, but you'll have to use it as the class name for convenience. I'm just going to call mine DPS, Deep Shadow. And this time we're going to add that class after our caps here, DPS. There we go. Now if we save, we'll see what we've got here. Refresh. There we go. We've got our deep shadow in there, which is fine. It's given it that sort of dark grey background. So let's give this whole section that same grey background. Let's go back to our bracket software. And if we look here, here's the background color 333. Now we created, when I built that section, I gave it an ID of grey. So if you look at this, classes always have a dot in front of them. Dot and the class name. IDs, they have a hashtag in front of them. So it's going to be hashtag. And the reason I used an ID rather than a class on there, you could use a class just the same, but with sections, I quite often use them as anchors. So if I've got a particular section that I want to hover to with a button or scroll to with a button, I can do it with an anchor tag, which is why you use an ID, because you don't want two of the same, because it won't know where to scroll to. Okay, anyway, let's just copy this background color 333. Now we've just told our section grey ID, and anything with ID of grey, we want to give it background color of 333. Save that, Control S, take a look at the site now. There we go, it's made that whole section that grey color, but we've lost our bit of text there. Very easy to fix. We can use the Bootstrap class, the new Bootstrap 4 class of text light. It's already got a class in there of lead. We'll say text light. Control S to save. Back to the site. Now, when I refresh, that text should appear as light text. There we go. Simple as that. Now, what if we wanted to change this whole background color to something different? Let's just click on it and find a color. I'm using Chrome here, and I've just right-clicked and hit Inspect to bring up the inspector here. There's our background color. In fact, let's actually right-click and inspect the text and do its background color, so we'll be able to see there's its background color, which is the same. There's all the shadow colors underneath. I'm just going to left-click on that dot. It'll bring up a color palette. Now let's select a different color, perhaps. Oh, it's not bad. Whatever you want, something blue like that. A bit darker maybe. Okay, let's stick with that. Don't want to spend too much time on it. Copy the hexadecimal value there. Close this out. Anything we do within inspectors is non-destructive, so as soon as we hit the refresh, it'll go back to how it was. Now let's actually change the background of the text and of the section to that color. We go back up. What I'll do is, that was the deep shadow, wasn't it? So let's give it that background color here. Whoops. Make sure you've not got two hashtags there. And what I'm going to do is, rather than change the grey background, we might want that another time. Let's create another one. So I'm just going to copy that, put it down there, and I'll call it blue, B-L-U. And now I just need to copy that background color in there that we just used. There it is. Control C to copy. And back down here, paste it in. Okay. Now what I need to do is change that grey, ID grey, to ID of blue. Save that. Back to our site. Now when I refresh, everything here should change to that blue background color. There we go. Very good. Let's move on to the next one. What's the next one we've got here? It's an inset shadow. That's fine. So we're just going to rinse and repeat here. If you've seen enough, so stop now. You obviously know how to do this, but I'm going to just continue here just to show you what's going on. Again, I'm taking it just to the left of the dot, just to the right of the ampersand there, or the and symbol. Control C. Back to my brackets. Paste that in there. Select that, hit the tab, move it across. I'm going to shorten that again to I and SW. Like I say, you don't have to do this, I just do it for convenience. Now what I'm simply going to do is copy this whole section from the top to the bottom, Control C, drop down one, paste it in there. And what I'm going to do, if we look at this one, it's got a grey background or a dark background as well. I'm going to give it our class of grey there, and we'll just change the colour if we need to. So I'm going to put that, or the ID I should have said, to grey. That should now have a grey background. DPS was our deep shadow. And the new class was INSW, Inset Shadow. INSW, there we go. Let's save that and see what we've got. I think we're going to have two different color grays there, but we can change that in a moment. Back to our site, refresh, scroll down. There it is, we've got two different grays going on there. So what we want to do is either match this one with that one or match this one with that one. Let's take the one that they've used here and match it to our grey background there. So if we go up to our CSS, there's their background color. 2D, 2D, 2D. Copy that, and then for our grey section, let's just replace the 333 that we had there. Control S to save, back to the site, refresh. There you have it. Now I hope you can see that inset shadow. There's a slightly light colour around all of those letters there that makes it almost look like it's embossed. Okay, last one. We've got this kind of retro shadow going on here. And again, all we're doing is rinsing and repeating. So if you've seen enough, just do what you need to do. Control C to copy, again, to the right of the ampersand, just to the left of the dot there. Back to our brackets. Select, left click, drag, tab it across. There we go. Okay, and again, I'm going to shorten mine. RTW. And once more, let's just copy this section. Control C, Control V, paste. And we want to get rid of that inset shadow, and we want to put our new class name in, which is RTW. Okay, let's have a look, see what we've got there now. Control S to save. Back to our site. And refresh. Well, there we go. Well, we've got it, but we've also got the background color of that grey, which we do not want. And they've got a background color on this as well, which we probably do not want. I'm just going to turn it back to a white background on everything. So let's just go back to our brackets and do that. Simply take this ID away. We can take the whole thing away. Or just leave the ID section blank in between, in case you want to add a different one. Okay, so that's taking the background away from the section. Now we want to take the background away from the actual text itself. Oh. Control S to save. Back to the site and refresh. There we have it. There's our retro shadow, and we've lost our text underneath because it's light. Go back to the brackets. Simple to fix. Just take away the text light class. Control S to save again. Refresh. There it is. So there you have it. There's 4 interesting text shadow effects you can apply to your Bootstrap or HTML site. Once again, thanks to Georgie for supplying this code. I hope you found that useful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're interested in web development, have a look down below. We've got some great free web development courses down there, as well as some premium courses with some huge discounts for our YouTube subscribers. So do take a look. Once again, this has been Jamie from System 22 and webdesignandtechtips.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.